In the burning cradle of Mesopotamia, where rivers forged civilizations and gods whispered from stone ziggurats, rose one of the most formidable and fearsome war machines the ancient world had ever known: the neo-Assyrian Empire. From 911 to 609 BC, this empire didn't just fight wars, it mastered them, turning the battlefield into an art form, terror into a tactic, and strategy into statecraft. By the time his descendants rose to power, warfare had become a systemic pillar of Assyrian expansion. Armies could be mobilized year-round, thanks to innovations in logistics and communication. In a world where many cities thought their walls were eternal, the Assyrians introduced the concept of impermanence. With battering rams mounted on wheeled platforms, archers providing cover, and miners tunneling beneath foundations, they turned fortresses into tombs. One of their most infamous tactics was psychological: releasing captives before an attack. To spread stories of mutilation and massacre, from 626 BC onward, Babylonian and Median forces formed an unlikely alliance to crush their shared tormentor. By 612 BC, Nineveh, the heart of Assyrian power, was under siege. One carved not in marble, but in scars across 1,000 cities, in the tears of displaced nations and in the awe of generations to come. It was a glimpse into the terrifying potential of organized violence centuries before the rise of modern militaries. They weren't just warriors. They were architects of war. And though their empire crumbled, the shadow of their tactics still lingers. In the histories we read, in the empires we remember, and in the horrors we dare not repeat. And here the empire that had mastered the art of the siege tasted its own medicine. After a brutal and prolonged assault, the city fell. Fires engulfed palaces, kings perished, and the carefully curated myth of Assyrian invincibility burned to ash. By 609 BC, the last remnants of the once mighty empire were gone, swept away by the same tools they had wielded for generations. The neo-Assyrian Empire had forged its legacy in blood and fire, and in blood and fire, it was undone. It wasn't just about winning the siege, it was about breaking the will to resist before the first arrow flew. The Persians studied their administrative and military systems. The Romans admired their use of roads and logistics. And every empire that followed carried in some way the ghost of Assyria's iron grip. Dive deeper into the timelines that shaped our world and let the vertex of time take you places no textbook ever will. 'Cause history, E's and T dead. It E's just waiting for someone like you to awaken it. They had shown the world how warfare could be more than chaos. It could be systematic, it could be organized, and it could reshape entire civilizations. Their cruelty shocked the ancient world, but their innovation reshaped it. And when the city finally fell, mass deportations followed. Populations were uprooted, dispersed across the empire, their identities dissolved into the Assyrian whole. This wasn't mere conquest. It was ethnic and cultural engineering, warfare taken to its most methodical extreme. The Assyrians developed roads and relay systems to move troops, messages, and supplies faster than any of their neighbors. Right now, pause for a second and hit that subscribe button. Babylon, Elam, Urartu, and Egypt all felt the sting of Assyrian steel. Yet even in victory, the seeds of collapse were sown. Maintaining a vast empire through terror is like building a house on shifting sand. Eventually, fear turns into resentment, and loyalty into rebellion. Revolts flared constantly across the empire's vast provinces, especially in the final century. Under kings like Esarhaddon and Ashurbanipal, the Assyrians still won battles, but their enemies learned, they adapted, they united. And worst of all, they hated. For the Assyrian war engine to function, it required a constant flow of tribute, manpower, and obedience. When these began to falter, the wheels that once turned so smoothly began to grind and crack. Because here at Vertex of Time, we bring history's most intense, dramatic, and blood-soaked moments back to life. From the sands of Assyria to the forests of Germania, from samurai honor to Mongol thunder, we tell the stories others whisper about. Don't just watch history, feel it. Subscribe now and join the Legion. Their kings, such as Tiglath-Pileser III and Sargon II, weren't content to rule from palaces. They often led from the front, directing battles and inspecting defenses with ruthless precision. Every campaign was chronicled in gory detail on palace walls, serving as both propaganda and warning. Imagine being a Babylonian envoy walking through the halls of Nineveh, surrounded by reliefs of your countrymen being flayed alive or having their heads piled at city gates. Fear was a weapon, and the neo-Assyrians wielded it expertly. The Assyrians weren't content with raiding for resources. They wanted dominion, tribute, and complete submission. And they were willing to rewrite the rules of ancient warfare to get it. Armies were no longer seasonal mobs led by nobles. Under Assyrian command, they became standing, professional forces with hierarchy, ranks, and specialized divisions. Siege engineers, archers, cavalrymen, charioteers, and even supply chain managers. Each played a role in this proto-modern military machine. With every city they crushed, with every rebel they impaled, they sent a chilling message. Resist, and your name will vanish from history. This was not merely an age of kings and generals, but of calculated brutality and advanced military logistics. The neo-Assyrians were the iron fist in a velvet glove of administrative genius, conquering cities not only with chariots and arrows but with intimidation, infrastructure, and sheer psychological dominance. The roots of this war-driven state stretch back to the reign of Adad-nirari II, whose campaigns around 911 BC marked the beginning of the neo-Assyrian resurgence. But what made the neo-Assyrian military truly revolutionary wasn't just its size or its bloodthirst. It was its efficiency. Siege warfare was perhaps the most iconic element of Assyrian domination. And if you're fascinated by the ancient world's most ruthless tacticians, then you're in the right place. As the Assyrian war machine evolved, so too did their enemies. The fall of the Assyrian Empire was the result of a single defeat. It was a conflagration. But even in its destruction, the legacy of Assyrian warfare endured. In the end, what the neo-Assyrians built was more than an empire. It was a blueprint. And if you've made it this far into the bloody chronicles of one of history's most ruthless empires, then you know what to do. Scroll through our other episodes